Hello, I'm Dr. Nebal Wail, a pediatric neurologist working in Children Welfare Teaching Hospital. I'm going to talk about genetics in pediatrics. Well, actually, the whole objectives about this series of lecture, actually, there are two lectures. The whole talk is a brief talk about genetics and cytogenetics. We are going to summarize basic terms in genetics and to discuss cytogenetics, list chromosomal aberration, and discuss the most common clinical case scenarios of chromosomal aberrations that are faced in the clinical practice in pediatrics. Now, what is genetics? It is the study of heredity, which is the process of passing traits from parents into their children. It describes how some traits, it describes everything, how the traits are passed, what is the nature, what's the course of passage of these traits from the parents to their children. The traits الصفة اللي يتميز بها الإنسان كأن يكون شعر أزرق أو شعر أصفر عفوا أو عيون زرقاء. هذه الصفة التريتس are expressed in genes ممثلة أو مشفرة بالجينات, and the genes are small sections of DNA that are coded for specific traits. They are found on chromosomes, and the chromosomes are found in normal human being in two sets of 23 chromosomes. One set comes from each parent. Actually, this lecture, I prefer this lecture to be interactive. We are going to mention terminologies, and I prefer you to Google these terminologies, to understand these terminologies, to answer the questions that will be prepared for these two lectures. يعني معظم الأسئلة أو معظم المعلومات هي راح تكون موجودة في محاضراتكم من الصف الثاني والرابع على ما أعتقد, اللي انطاكم إياها دكتور بسام. فالمفروض تكون هذه المحاضرات كمرجع وكمصدر لكم حتى تستذكرون بها هذه الترمينولوجيز. وهذه المحاضرة راح تكون فد شيء بسيط جدا كمقدمة لبعض الكلينيكال applications of genetics, لكن مع ذلك تبقى هي بسيطة جدا, وممكن أن تكون كثير من المعلومات هي مأخوذة من محاضراتكم اللي قدمت لكم صف الثاني والمرحلة الثانية والمرحلة الرابعة. Now I'm going to mention these terms: allele, genes, dominant, recessive, homozygous, heterozygous, phenotype, Mendelian inheritance. All these we are going to pass through, but I prefer that you Google these terms and you write a brief definition for each, and then to answer the questions that will be uploaded after completing the whole 6 lectures related to neurology and genetics. Okay, now the traits are found on genes, and the genes are small sections or small parts of DNA, and the DNA is found in the chromosome, and there are two copies of a chromosome. One copy came from each parent. When changes happen in these codes that are represented by genes, they are either called mutation or polymorphism. The mutation is the change in the DNA sequence which occur in the population in a frequency of less than 1%. If that changes occur more frequently than 1% in the population, in the general population, then it is most likely polymorphism. We have two types of mutations, the somatic and the germline. The somatic mutation is the one that is formed in a somatic cell. When these cells divide successfully, the mutation is transmitted to the offspring, while the germline mutation is the mutation that occur in the primordial germ cells or in the germ cells during gametogenesis. بما انه هي تحدث بالgerm cells during gametogenesis, so it means that they may not be passed or may not pass from parents to the siblings because they occur during gametogenesis. They are inherited to the offspring, and but they are inherited to the offspring. Okay. These mutations, the mutations could be spontaneous or induced. The spontaneous, due to defective DNA replication, spontaneously occur, and the induced, the mutation that is caused by environmental effects, by radiation, chemicals, infection, etc. The cytogenetics is the field of genetics that is related or studying chromosomes, the number, the structure, the characteristic segments, the functional roles, and the mutations in the chromosomes. Therefore, we have these terms related to the cytogenetics: duplication, deletions, inversions, translocations, ring chromosome, isochromosome, dicentric chromosome, and eccentric fragments. Now, these terms, again, you have to retrieve or remind yourselves with this chromosome. You can go back to the lectures presented by Dr. Bassam, or you can Google them and read about them. And then they will be, again, as I told you, they will be, you will be asked about these terms and the ones mentioned before in the set of questions that will be prepared and uploaded at the end of these lectures. Euploid chromosome mutation and euploid mixoploid. Again, these are important. Euploid هو the number of a chromosome or the set of a chromosome that defaultly present in the organism. The organism can be can have haploid, one set of chromosome, haploid cells, or twice number. The chromosome can be presented in twice in the number in diploid cell, or thrice in a triploid cell. The aneuploidy is anything abnormal about the chromosome number. It could be in excess or missing, so that if there is one copy, it is monosomy, 3 copies, a trisomy, not found, nullisomy. I would like to present one of the common cases that is faced in the clinical practice, especially in pediatric neurology or cardiology, that represent one example of chromosomal disorder. A 1-year-old boy who has delayed milestones, and why? Because he rolled at 6 months. He's unable to sit now and or even stand or walk. He can recognize parents. He has happy demeanor, and he's cooing. On examination, he was found hypotonic with normal deep tendon reflexes and dysmorphology. And this is the phenotype of this child. This is the face of this child. Classically, everyone would say that this is a face of a Mongolian child. The child with Down syndrome has multiple malformations and dysmorphology. He might have growth failure, mental retardation, mild to moderate, flat back of the head, abnormal ear, might have abnormal dermatoglyphics or abnormal hand creases, palm creases, special skin ridges pattern, unilateral or bilateral absence of one rib. There might be umbilical hernia, abnormal pelvis, enlarged colon, megacolon, congenital heart disease in about 50% of cases, short or broad hands and fingers, uh, facial dysmorphology in form of a broad flat face, slanting eyes, epicanthic eye folds, and short nose, etc. Some of these or all these dysmorphologies are present in variable percentages. It is due to meiotic non-disjunction event, okay, and it causes 21 of a trisomy of a chromosome 21. This trisomy is the cause in 95% of Down syndrome. 88% of this trisomies is due to non-disjunction of maternal gamete, and 8% is due to non-disjunction in paternal gamete. Now, 4.5% of the cases are actually not due to trisomies, but Robertsonian translocation. This translocation could be between chromosome 21 and others, like 14 or 21. The translocation is usually familial. من عندنا حالات translocation عادة recurred in the family. And you can see here, this is the karyotype, which shows trisomies, 3 copies of a chromosome 21. The second case scenario usually is presented to the endocrinology unit or clinic for having short stature, or the gynecology clinic for having amenorrhea. A 14-year-old girl who presented with amenorrhea and short stature. On examination, she was found short. She has webbed neck, low hairline, low set ear, shield chest, cubitus valgus, high arched palate. Tanner stage was prepubertal. On investigation, high level of FSH and low estradiol was found with normal thyroid function test. Karyotyping was done. This is the phenotype of the child. And this is a classic case scenario of Turner syndrome. Again, Turner syndrome has dysmorphology and facial dysmorphology or body dysmorphology. And the most important thing is the short stature, some characteristic facial feature, webbing of the neck, low hairline posteriorly. There is increased risk of congenital heart disease, shield-shaped thorax, widely spaced nipples, elbow deformity, and gonadal streaks. Okay? And there is no menstruation. The child or the patient is usually amenorrheic. And this is the cytogenetic test or the karyotype showing one X chromosome. And thank you. This lecture will be followed by the next lecture about genetics and the types of genetic disorders.